story. This is from a lovely man who in the 1930s or 20s and 30s spent a lot of time in Appalachia, and he had a guitar on his back and his thumb out, and he would play for his supper, and he collected some of the best songs out of the hills. Eventually he was given an honorary PhD. His name was Manly Wade Wellman, and he is credited with preserving a lot of the folk music from Appalachia. He also wrote a wonderful series of stories about a man named John, just John, no other name, who would travel through Appalachia with his guitar on his back with silver strings, because that made a special singing sound. And but the difference between John and Manly Wade Wellman's actual travels is John runs into all the bogles and the behinders and the tollers and the flats and all the monsters of Appalachian myth, which he usually overcomes with a good heart and a couple of good songs. But this is a story called Blue Monkey. John had been picked up by the side of the road by someone who pulled over their old beat-down car and said to him, "Boy, can you sure enough play that thing?" And John said, "I sure enough can." And they said, "Well, there's going to be a party up towards Dixville Notch tonight, and Jimmy, the guitar player, managed to drop a couple rocks on his fingers, and so we're short a guitar player. Would you like to come? We'll feed you and we'll give you a place to stay for the night." Now that had been the best deal that John had heard in a handful of days. So he said, sure. And it was one of those wonderful parties, you know, the ones that just take fire. All the conversations are sparkling and kind, and everybody danced and they sang, and there was so much food you couldn't eat through it if you had a shovel and a stomach the size of a mountain. And finally, though, the party was winding down, and it was getting to that part where people were tired of dancing, tired of talking, tired of singing, but not quite tired enough to leave yet. And it was right then that the fat man said, "If y'all can keep from thinking about a red fish, I'll turn a pot full of pebbles into gold." Now there was a huge stir, and everybody sat around thinking so hard, trying not to think of a red fish. They were concentrating terrible. All except John, who was watching what the fat man did. And he took a pot, and into it he put pebbles and oil and water, and with each he said a certain word. And then he walked around the pot singing 3 times, singing a certain special song. And then he said, "Folks, okay, you can open your eyes." And people opened their eyes from all of their concentrated on trying not to think of a red fish. And he opened the pot and poured it out, and it was pebbles and water and oil and salt. And he said, "Okay, which y'all was thinking about the red fish?" And everybody had a good laugh, saying, you know, they've been trying so hard to not think of a red fish that they couldn't help but think of nothing but a red fish. And that laugh ended the party. And people headed for home, and John had a clean, dry place to sleep that night and for a couple nights after. Some year later, John was now up in the Franklin Notch instead of the Dixville one. He'd been trying to get a ride for 3 days. His shirt was soaked through. He was trying to keep his guitar dry. When finally he had a break of luck, somebody pulled up and said, "We need you to play. Would you be that one, John? Because I see your strings are silver instead of brass." And John said, "Sure enough." And they said, "Well, we got a party to go to, boy. Hop in and, you know, throw your bag in the back." And off John went. Now this was another magic party. It was a 50-year wedding anniversary, and all the children and grandchildren, everybody else what knew these people, and a fair few who didn't like John, who was just there to play music. Oh my gosh, it was a wonderful party. There was a mountain of food you couldn't get through if you had a shovel and a stomach the size of that same mountain. And they played all the best tunes, and John hauled out some of the ones like Vandy Vandy that you haven't heard for a couple hundred years. And they even played that song, The Little Black Train, about the devil coming for a woman's soul. And they played Shiver in the Pines. It has those weird bent notes that some folks say because we didn't write music in the same way in the old days. The music now has all these weird bent sounding notes. But Shiver in the Pines, if you can listen to that song without a shiver going down your spine, it's because you're pure steel. And I got to that point in the evening, finally, where folks were tired of eating, tired of dancing, tired of drinking, tired even of laughing. But they weren't quite ready to go home when John said, if y'all can keep from thinking about a blue monkey, I'll turn a pot full of pebbles into gold. Well, there was quite a stir. And people sat there and they concentrated so hard trying not to think of a blue monkey. And John took a pot and into it he put pebbles and water and oil and salt. And with each he said that special word. And he put the cover on the pot and he walked around it 3 times singing that special song. He said, all right, y'all can stop, concentrating now. We can open the pot. And one of the ladies opened it up and she reached in and the contents clanked. That bright, sharp metal sound. And when she opened her hand, the pebbles were gold. He said, all right, which y'all was thinking about a red fish? And they stared at him. And the lady said, John, I was trying so hard to not think about a blue monkey. I couldn't get it out of my head completely. And John said, well, I just said that so y'all wouldn't happen to think of a red fish. But this is gold, John, she said. You've got enough gold here to... John said, this has been the finest party in a good old year. And y'all have been so hospitable. Why don't you take a handful for yourselves and take a handful for anybody around here who you think what needs it. Because that may be gold, but this is my richness. And that is the story of Blue Monkey. Thank you for reading.